Alright, good afternoon guys, welcome back to another video. Thanks for hanging out with me for some time out of your day here on my channel. So we are picking up just once again on the Integra, so we're going to continue pushing forward with the turbo build process of that. So at the end of the last video we got the intercooler knocked out, we got the V-band turbo converted to a V-band exhaust flange, built the downpipe, had some fun with the hot pipe stuff. And yeah, the intercooler brackets are all made, painted, and mounted to the vehicle. So now today we are going to be primarily working on the charge piping aspect of it. So let's kind of reiterate and go over what we're doing for that. So you will notice I'm using like a normal B-series style intercooler. So the reason I'm doing that primarily is because A, it's free because I already have it from a previous build laying around. And for the second reason, it shouldn't really have much more lag slash delay than a vertical in and out style intercooler where both inlets are on this side. But the third other reason is because with the in and out on the same side over here, like your normal K-series style intercooler, you got to cut a hole in the core support, which I really don't want to do. And I'm also running a full-size Sirocco radiator, so there's not a whole lot for me to do with that. So I mean, really the only other thing I could do is cut a portion out of here, and I am just really not about that. So at least for the time being, I'm gonna just go ahead and do it this way. So let's kind of show you guys the routing. So obviously this is how the turbo compressor housing is going to be ran. No other way to clock it. Obviously we got a cylinder head here and we got a firewall there, and obviously down is not really an option. So I am currently waiting on a 90-degree fitting to show up from Vibrant. I did buy one on Amazon, so it should be here any moment now. Honestly, it's about midday. So but yeah, so I did order a 2 to 2.5 inch 90-degree coupler, but it was going to be too tall, so this one will let me be able to cut this right at this line right here, this casting line, and then weld a new one on. And we're basically, I mean, straight shot it over here. I'm going to either build a bracket to mount this, or I'm going to just build a new reservoir entirely and just put it somewhere else. But ideally, we're going to run the piping straight across, we're going to run it down, and then we're going to run it obviously around just like you would normally. And you can probably guess it, we're doing the same thing on this side, so we're going to bring it around up through this hole. We're just using 2.5 inch pipe because for 350 wheel, 2.5 inch is plenty size for that. And then we're just going to run it along here. We got plenty of space here, and then really the only hard part is going to be the most restrictive part, ideally, is 180ing it into here. So ideally I'd love to use just a coupler, like a 90-degree coupler, and then run kind of like a 90 into it, but I may try and build it to here and then just try and order like a 180-degree silicone coupler and see if that works. But yeah, that's basically the routing. I mean, kind of long, yeah, but I also don't want to cut the carb anymore. And again, with the power goals, not everything is about power. This is about functionality and efficiency, and this is going to do just what I need it to do. With that being said, I'm gonna just jump right into it. I'm gonna go check. I just saw the mailman leave a minute ago, so I'll see if my package showed up for that coupler fitting thing. If it did, we'll start on the cold side. If it didn't, we will start on the outlet side, and we'll just go from there. So let's get into it. Wouldn't you know it, the mailman just came by. So this is what I'm working with here. It's just a little bit more compact than the rubber or the silicone coupler I was gonna be using. So ideally, like I said, cut it down there, and this will go in its place. So we still got plenty of clearance for the hood and the cowl, so that's what I'm gonna do. So in order to do that, I do have to pull the compressor housing off the turbo. I'm gonna try and see if I can do it with the turbo in the car. If not, it's only 4 bolts in the downpipe, so, but I'm gonna try and do it in the car still. That's pretty easy. So again, I'm gonna just be chopping it on that line, probably in the vertical bandsaw or stand saw. But another thing I'm gonna kind of run into an issue too is running vacuum, because this K-series does not have a lot of vacuum. So I need a vacuum for the fuel pressure regulator still, because I haven't ran it, haven't had any issues yet, but I probably should hook it up. I need vacuum for the wastegate, and I need vacuum for the blow-off valve. So obviously you can only tie into the T with 2 lines, which means I have 1 line open still, and I only have 1 extra vacuum source. So my options are either tap into this right here, because this is kind of like a partially threaded fitting piece, like some turbos have this already threaded. So my options are tap into that, or on the bottom side of my manifold is like a little plate. I can tap into that, thread or weld a fitting onto there, which I'm probably gonna have to do anyway, because I still have to figure out a situation for the intake air temp sensor. Now there is fittings for that. I just got to figure out what they are. But if any of you guys have any experience with that, Turbo K-Series, let me know what you did for your IAT sensor, because I'm kind of lost on that part. But at least for this, I'm thinking about just tapping a hole right here, drilling and tapping a hole, and plumbing the wastegate into that, because then the vacuum line is short, it's out of the way, and it's just right into it, because that's how I had it on the Miata, and it was perfect. Now we can go test fit this back on the car and clock exactly the orientation that we need to set the 90. So like that, and that. I'd say that works pretty darn well, and we got plenty of clearance. Alright, so let's work with that. The trick to welding this, because it is kind of thick and it is cast, is pretty much just preheat. So I'm going to take the torch to it like we did with the compressor housing, if you get, or the exhaust housing if you guys watched that video. Not going to get it as hot, we're just going to put a little bit of heat into it. And then another trick is to set your cleaning really high on your welder, and then make a pass around it just using the cleaning action, moving kind of slow. Get some of the gunk brought to the tops, that way it's out of the base metal or the parent metal or whatever, and then go through and weld it. And if you're wondering what I use for aluminum settings, I like to use a number 5 cup, and for gas flow, I really only run like 10, 15 CFH tops. So right now, we'll go down to about 15. With aluminum, you really don't need a lot of gas. So the majority of the action's in the machine itself. Welded up, pretty minty. I'm stoked. That was the first time ever doing that, and it was a lot easier than I thought. So I didn't even need to preheat that much, because it soaked up a lot of the heat. So I have my amps set at like 110 right now, and I was pretty much pedal down the whole time. So yep, we'll let this cool off a bit. We'll throw it back on the car, and we can get started on our charge pipe routing. That fits super mint, so obviously I can play with it a little bit and rotate it, but this is going to be totally fine. Actually, I may rotate it just a hair away, because that's not really rubbing, but you know, just in case. But yeah, so basically now I just got to start getting the piping to kind of shoot over here. So I'm going to take off the intake really quick, and then we can move this out of the way, just kind of tuck her somewhere over there for now, but yeah, that looks great. I'm gonna start planning out this section once I just take this out of the way quick.
Do you need to fix it? Talking bullshit. It's hard to see you when your eyes look dull. Who's gonna save you? Who's gonna make you not blue?
I'm making pretty quick work of this so far. It's literally been about 20 minutes and I got this far built up. So I immediately test fit that for hood clearance. It is really close, but it does close all the way. And I even crawled on there and shined my flashlight in there. So I'm gonna actually throw my phone with the flash on the video and see how close it is, because I just wanna know. But it fits nonetheless. So thankfully this got pretty easy. So it was basically just took the 45 section, cut it, and re-welded the bead. So I do have the bead roll up there, 45 down. This is just a hair more than a 45 here, and then hair more, or a little under a 90, so this is probably like a 60, and then obviously just shorten this whole fresh 90, and now we're kicking out down here. So now I can basically figure out, I'm probably gonna trim it up here because obviously I have to use a coupler, so I'm gonna just end up putting the bead lock or the bead roll up here. I really need to buy a bead roller so I don't have to keep re-welding that stuff. So I might even just cut it because I can use the bead roller at work. But yeah, then obviously intercooler there. So I'm gonna probably just boop and just make it nice and simple.
That blue, sort of witty and jaded, but let's not talk about you. Your coyote song on a rerun. Are you hound dog tired singing all night long? Who's gonna save you? Who's gonna make you not blue? Not blue.
That is cold side all finished up. So the only thing I really got to add is a bead roll on this end going into the couplers, or into the coupler right here on each top piece and this piece here. Just take those to work with me and bead roll them there. And obviously got to finish welding it, but that's good. And I already just test fit the bumper off camera and it fits, and then we got clearance. I don't have to even trim anything, so we good. Well, here's the cold side, all welded up, got my badge on there, even added a little tab to bolt it to the body, so that way, you know, it stays in place. Yeah, I'm stoked. I gotta pull this piece off and weld up those 3 weld joints quick, and then the cold side's completely done. Minus the bead roll, of course. Alright, so now that we're onto this section, we got to figure out how to make the pie cuts here, trying to calculate them at least, other than just cutting a bunch of pieces of pie and hoping for the best. So in this case, we're just going to come 180 right out of the throttle body, and so I need roughly, I believe, a 5-inch centerline radius. So going from center of pipe roughly to center of pipe, so that's more like a 4 3/4 inch centerline radius. So I gotta try and do the calculations fast. If you go on Google, there is formulas for calculating the amount of pieces you need, how long each piece needs to be, figuring out centerline radiuses and all that stuff. So I don't really know how to explain it. I'm just kind of doing it. So go on Google if you're really interested, and you can look that up. So I went and I just did the calculations to figure out my cuts and stuff. So I found a website that has a good calculator. So going off of that, I thought my centerline radius was like almost 5, but I forget that that is the distance from like the whole thing, and the centerline is obviously the center point to the middle of the bend or whatever. I'm pretty sure. So going off of that, assuming that is what it is, so the calculation for doing that to figure out what size cuts you need, so you're going to do length of cut equals 2 times basically your centerline radius times 2 plus the diameter of your pipe, and then it's multiplied by the sine of your angle. So in this case for me, my centerline radius is a 2.5 inch centerline radius. I'm using 2.5 inch tube. I want roughly 8 pieces, and it's 180 degree bend. So to find my bend, or to find the angle, which is the angle of which I set my saw up to, so your angle is going to be your bend angle divided by 2 times your number of cuts. So in this case, I need a 180 degree angle, and I want 8 cuts, so 8 times 2 is 16. 180 divided by 16 equals 11.25 degrees of a cut angle. So in that case, moving on from there, I know, bear with me, this is all nerdy math stuff, but this is stuff that I'm having to learn, and I think some of you guys may have interest. So if you guys are interested, you can just look at pi cut calculators, and this will pop up on Turbo forums and stuff. So in this case, it is going to be, for me, my twice the centerline radius is going to be 9.5 inches. So again, I'm sorry. So 2.5 times the centerline radius for me is 5. So 2.5 plus 2.5. And then plus 2.5 for the pipe diameter, so I have a total of 7.5 inches times the sine of 11.25. So doing that in the calculator, which the sine of 11.25 is like 0.1950 according to the calculator. So in this case, to figure out my length, it is 7.5 times 0.1950, and that leaves me with a long side length of 1.5 inches. So what we have here is my piece of pipe. So I did this calculator before. It said like 2.5 inches, and that's obviously way too long. So in this case, I got 1.5 inches that I have to mark it out. So I will do that, make a test cut, see if that looks like it's going to be kind of correct, and if it is, I will draw my center line on the top and the bottom of the tube, and then just start cutting some pies. To be honest, that was like the most scripted thing I've ever done on my channel. So hopefully you guys like that. All right, so survey says that this piece is roughly 1.46 inches. Yeah, so 1.47 inches, so I'm super close, so I'm going to go ahead and run with it. I can fake the funk a little bit with the coupler, obviously, so I'm going to cut 7 more of these, and that should give us our 180 degree bend that we need. Well, we got our pie cuts here, so let's tape them up and test fit and see if they fit, if it's the right angle, and if it is, or if it's the right bend. I'm stoked. But let's not get ahead of ourselves really quick, so I got my tape lined up here. Another trick is just trying to line these up. I always forget to mark a center line just because I'm never paying attention. So, but yeah, this is the part of doing this that nobody ever really tells you. The tricky stuff like this. That looks pretty promising. Let's go test fit. Also, if you're wondering what tape I use, ow, stupid welder. I've mentioned it before, but this is a high temp powder coating tape. It's called PET tape. This is what I use for sticking stuff together so I can tack it, because it has a much higher melting point and it doesn't leave any residue. So the more you know. Take this one out. Dude, that's it. Sick. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack that up. Obviously, I still gotta add probably like just another section of this just with the bead roll on the end. But that's it. And then I can just straight shot it over. I'm the last person in the world to say that math is fun, but when it actually makes sense and you're using in a real world application, this is actually pretty cool. And it's stuff like this. Like I freaking bombed math so hard in high school, and of course I choose the one career path and hobby that requires it the most, next to, you know, engineering and stuff. But like this whole job is all math, and So, okay, well that's sick. I'm gonna go ahead and tack this all up. That's gonna be a lot of welding for sure. Yeah, I'll tack it up and then we'll test fit again, make sure, and then just build the rest of it. And then once that whole top section's done, we'll break it apart. I'm gonna weld this probably as is because it's gonna be pretty bulky with the other ends on it. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut a little. Oh, I have a piece of the bead roll right here. What do you know? It's almost like fate. So, all right, let's tack it up. I just tacked together, or well, welded this piece, this portion, whatever, and I'm too stoked on this. Like, it fits so good. So obviously this kind of bends a little bit, and there we go. Like, bada bing, bada freaking boom. I just checked and it clears the hood, clears the alternator and the belt, it clears the freaking alternator and the brackets. Like, we're doing it. We are definitely doing it. So obviously I got to finish welding this section. Thankfully it's only 3 weld joints. And then I got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weld joints, right? Yeah, 8 weld joints on this one, so we got a bit of welding to do, but yeah, we'll get it done. Thankfully I already did this side, so I was thinking ahead. So I'm just, yeah, that's sick. I'm stoked on that. We're looking good. So I got this finished up last night to come out here this morning and realized that I'm missing something here. I forgot to put the wastegate. So the wastegate that I was going to be using is this, which is the NGR Type S, which is like pretty expensive for being like an eBay brand, but it's basically the Greddy Type S knockoff or replacement nowadays because Greddy stopped making the Type S years ago. And if you don't know what the Type S blow-off valve is, it's the one from the Fast and the Furious, the green Eclipse. It's the sound, well, yeah, it's that car. I mean, obviously in the movie, the sound clip was dubbed over for a CRX with the Turbo B series, but you get my point. This is the Eclipse blow-off valve in Fast and the Furious. So I've always wanted one. I just wanted to try it. If I have any issues with it long term, obviously I'll swap it out. It's not that hard. But yeah, so I had to order a full eBay version of that, which was like 40 bucks to get this adapter pipe, mostly because I just needed the flange with it, but it also came with a spare flange. So I'm kind of torn on which one to use because I could just go in here. I already have the line marked out. This one's obviously got the flange already attached to it, and the wastegate is going to very tightly fit up in here, but it's the most accessible, so I want it there. But yeah, so I'm kind of torn at the moment between either just chopping the pipe and just using it there, because that's easy, but then it's just as easy also to just reuse the pipe that I currently have right here and then just throw the flange on there, because I can throw the flange on in really any orientation that I want. But honestly, I'm leaning more towards just using that. So I'm gonna go chop this pipe. I already made the cut line last night when I was out here looking at it, and then from there I'm just gonna make a little line, or a tab. I'm gonna bolt it to, I thought about making a plate that goes up here, but I really don't know how I'm supposed to weld that without having the welder out here, because like, I don't know if you guys have ever tried welding tabs to aluminum, but even doing the little guy down there, ridiculously hard, because the aluminum is not magnetic, obviously, so there's no way to really hold it on there while you're trying to tack it. So doing a big old plate like that to be at a precise line like this, I don't know, it'd probably be easier if I just utilize this bolt hole here or something, but I'll figure that part out in a minute. I'm just gonna get this situated first. Got the piece already trimmed up and mocked up, so you can see it's a tight fit, but this is exactly where it's gonna sit there. So we still got like a ½ inch before it even contacts the pulley. And like I said, this is gonna get braced, so it's not gonna be moving into the engine. And then worst case scenario, if it somehow ever touches it, I can always just modify this. It's not a big deal, but I think we'll be completely fine. So we go ahead and weld this up, and then we can bolt that on, and then that stuff is all good to go. That's looking a lot better. So I added the tab here, tried to get kind of stylish with it. I don't know, the holes, at least the tapered holes, at least look kind of cool to me. Yeah, blow-off valve is obviously very close to the drive assembly, but you know, we still got clearance nonetheless. So got at least ½ inch. I don't think the engine's gonna rock forward at all. Rock back, maybe, but I also do have the Hasport mount, so I don't know if it's that big of an issue, but there's only one way to find out. I mean, it's either gonna start rubbing on this. I don't think it's gonna cause anything drastic because my belt is inboard on the pulley a little bit, so if the thing somehow ever snags the belt will probably let me know, because it's either gonna rip off or it's gonna squeal or something. But anyway, so my vacuum fitting is right here, so that's where I'm gonna be running the blow-off valve line to. As for the wastegate, like I said, I still have to take the turbo and stuff out so I can get the downpipe and all that Cerakoted. So when I take that apart, I'm gonna take the housing off of that and I'm gonna just run it, or I'll run a tap through it and then just get a little vacuum fitting, and then we'll run the wastegate boost pressure or vacuum off of that. And then on this one, I can tee it off here for the fuel pressure regulator and just have the vacuum line coming from here to here, and then from here to here as well. So that is all good, but I'm excited to hear this blow off valve. It's gonna sound so cool. This is the adapter that I just went to go get. So unfortunately the bead roll didn't work because my pipes just are too wonky shaped and it wouldn't clamp onto the material, onto the machine or whatever, the tool. But whatever, I'll just weld the things on the end anyway. So basically this is your IAT bung, just a little weld on fitting, and then your IAT sensor for your K-series slips in there, has an O-ring, and then the top piece just bolts down to help seal it. So I do kind of want it tucked. So for me, I'm just gonna mount it on the bottom of this tube here, just mark it out, drill a simple hole for the sensor to fit through, and you're good. Well, there we go, it's all welded up, so it's definitely cooking, so I'm gonna let it cool off a little bit. And then I'm gonna just go ahead and gold tape everything while we're here, and that'll pretty much wrap up this stuff. So now that's the final last bit of the welding, since I got the bead ends on these now, and I got the IAT sensor adapter and the blow-off valve. So now we are officially done with this once I gold tape it. So I'll be back in a minute. This took way longer than I should have to get all this wrapped. So you can see here, this is how the little adapter works. It just kind of sandwiches it in there with the O-ring. So yeah, this is all good for reassembly. I already got the other side bolted in here. So that wraps up all the freaking charge piping. So that was definitely a good amount of work, but I'm stoked on how it came out. So hopefully you guys like it too. Nice gold looking engine bay. So that's that. All cooler showed up, so be looking out for that section in the next video, as well as the water lines, because I was going to do the water lines in this video, but we're already running on long enough. So we're just going to end this video off here, but just one more look at how good this looks. Well, there you have it, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me on the channel again, spending your time with me here today. And I hope you guys enjoyed the process of making some of the intercooler piping, or the charge piping and stuff. I know it's not the most interesting stuff to some people, but a lot of people think it is cool. So I just, you know, you guys know me. I film whatever I film. I just do what I do. So I'm proud of it. I learned more, which I'm stoked on, and it looks good, and it's going to be functional. And for anybody, before any comments about vertical intercoolers like in and out same side as compared to this style intercooler, based off of my research, I'm not an engineer that knows flow dynamics by heart, but I can, as I understand it, this setup should flow just as well, if not just a hair slower for spool time, at least, than the normal K-series style intercooler, because on those ones, you know, obviously just the smoother the air can flow, the faster it's going to flow. So on those ones, it's got to go boop, boop, boop. Whereas on this one, it's just going to come straight through and go up and around. So whatever, we'll find out on the dyno exactly what's going on. So anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel, hopefully you've considered subscribing by now and turning on those post notifications so you can see when I upload. If you want to help support the channel, Patreon, please sign up. Big Cartel, please get some merch. And I have a P.O. box if you ever want to send me anything. So anyways, guys, do what you love, figure out the rest. Get out there and work on your car, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.